So I did a lot of work the other day on this whole drawer thing that I got set up. So I think instead of just saying like what I've done, I think I'm just gonna assemble everything and then just go over everything as it's being assembled. I think that'll be easier. So let's do it. Alright, so first things first, I got this piece. This is my base, and it has, well, oh man, I got dirt all up in it. Dang it. But anyway, I got that locator, and I got this locator, which is like there. So that locates in the seat locations. But under that I got, I don't know if I got these threads for these holes, and that hole is like milled out, like it's like a little slot, and that's for my adjustment for the width of my drawer, that leg to that leg, because when I formed it I knew that I couldn't get exactly on like that. It was 531 millimeters wide, and I knew I couldn't land right on that, so I made it adjustable 15 millimeters so I could compensate. So I got to put my drawers on, my sliders on, because the screws are under this pan, which this is the bottom side. So I got to put them on. I also have to put on in the center of the drawer, since it only is supported from here to here. It bows in the center, even though this is 2.5 millimeter aluminum. No, it's not aluminum. Stainless. This is 2.5 millimeter stainless. I was afraid that the center of this would bow down a little bit, so I made a roller out of this urethane, and I got some bearings that have a flanged, one spot's flanged and one isn't, and it fits right in there. Like it presses in like just so. And it's kind of hard to press it in, which is fine, which is perfect. And I made some little brackets for that. First, I made a center spacer with the edge. You can see how the center, I relieved the edges away. That center is 12.75 millimeter, just enough to catch the inside of this bearing, the inside like race, I guess you could say. So this fits in there. That fits in there. And when you push this together, I can feel it bottom out on the center roller, on the center spacer that I made, and you can see it in there. And the bearings, like on the edge, in the center. So I made that, and I got a bolt. This is out of a Subaru. I think it's out of the timing timing belt tensioner. It's a 14 mil, it's 10 mil, 10 by 1.25 thread, and I made these little standoffs with M4 bolts. Them are 13 millimeters apart. I went 4 millimeters deep, 4 millimeters on the X and Y axis. That's there, and I got a 10 millimeter hole. I relieved this a millimeter, and I got the same thing on this side. It's so it hits the inside of the bearing. So this bolt, and I got this one too, this is the same deal. I relieved around the center where it's going to hit the middle bearing race, and I counterbored it so the bolt can fit, and it'll be pretty much flush, just so it's not sticking out. I don't know, I just did that just because. So I got this, fits in there good. That fits in there. And I cut like 3 threads off the end of this because it was just a little bit too long, and it was hanging out of the edge of the bracket that I made. So that, and then I got this. I'm gonna have to screw this together real quick. So, as you can see, it just kind of sits. Well, it's not exactly flat right now because it's not sits and it'll roll with my holes, and it will support the center of this drawer. Because when I hit bumps, it's going to put a lot more weight than what these sliders are recommended for. Not a lot more, but it'll maybe get past that maximum load capacity, which I think the maximum load capacity is only for these being extended, because when these are extended out, you're putting a load out here and it has a bunch of leverage against this and that, and you just have a mechanical advantage. You have a mechanical, it's just multiplying the torque, the stress, the weight of your drawer on them bearings. So if it's supported when it's shut with this, and this will also just help it roll, there'll just be less force on it. And I just made this just because I wanted to make something out of it. So I got this, and I also drilled holes for it. These little counterboard holes are for the edge. Hold on, let me get a screw and show you real quick. These 4mm screws will fit in there, and I got it counterboard, and it's a little bit of play in there, and it's going to be flat on the bottom, and it's going to locate right there, and it's centrally located on that bore. And if you notice, on the insides of these brackets, I got it radiused off on the insides of them, and that's radius off because hold on, let me move this. When this is mounted, since that is radiused off, I can still get this piece in and out, because that's clearanced on that side and on that top side, and I'll still be able to get that piece of steel in and out if I need to take it apart. Then I won't ever have to take this off. Well, in theory, I won't ever have to take this off because it comes apart without taking this off. So I'm gonna put that on, and I want to put that on because I won't be able to get to the bottom screws with this mounted. So that needs to be put on. That needs to be put on, and this little locator needs to be put on, and a couple other things. So I'm gonna do that real quick and get back with you in a second. Alrighty, so I got this tight, that tight. This little roller thing's looking pretty good, and as you can see maybe now, they're clearanced enough to where I can fit my piece in there. Man, that thing's sweet. I like that little roller thing. That's cool. Alright, so I got this on. I need to put my what are them things called? My drawer sliders on, and locate that inside of this pan that I made. This is just made out of stainless, and oh jeez, it's kind of heavy. I bent this over 45 millimeter, and I drilled my holes. One, there's two, and I got the little locators on this side. Deburred all that, deburred it on the inside, and I ground down. I formed this over, formed that over, ground this down. I welded it, ground it down, so it's smooth. So it's basically one piece. And the inside, I just got my holes. You can see the weld up in the corners. You can see a little bit of sunlight through that one, but it doesn't matter. So this is my pan that fridge is going to mount on, and I'm probably going to make brackets off the handles that come down, and maybe come down, bend out, or just maybe come down on the side and like bolt in. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure that out once it's all together. And I haven't had it together yet, so I don't know what this is gonna look like. All right, one more thing I'd like to add is when I drill these holes for them screws, they're just through holes, and that's a 6mm bolt, so I drilled it like right on 6mm, and I made them holes super tight, and I made them tight because this piece I had in the mill, in the vise, and it was square, it was squared up 100%. So when I drilled these, them are 100% straight, 90 degrees with this. So I drilled them tight because the tighter them holes are, the less chance there is for them to move around, like back and forth. I don't know if you can see, this does move a little bit. One probably more than the other. It looks like this one's moving. But I kept them tight so it would keep this slider 90 degrees no matter what position it was, just to kind of hold it in place. I thought that would be like a good idea, because if I drilled that 6.5, then it would have 0.5 millimeter. They're 70 millimeters apart. Within that 70 millimeters, it would move 0.5 millimeter. By the time it gets out here, it'll be moving 1 millimeter, so the drill would be way off by the time it got to the. So I just figured I would make them tight so it located that slider when I put the screws in. Thought I'd throw that in there real quick. Alright, another thing, on these screws, on them two, I didn't put a washer. And I didn't put a washer because they're going to be in the same location every time, and it will kind of mush the head of the bolt, will mush the aluminum kind of like out of the way. Not out of the way, but as you tighten it and as you crank on it, it's going to put an indentation in the aluminum because it's soft. Well, on the other side, since it's adjustable, since that's a slot, I'm gonna put washers, because if the adjustment's ever different, and since it's able to adjust, I'm gonna run washers, and hopefully the washers will cover a little bit more surface area, and the head of the bolt won't be turning directly on the aluminum, because it'll be turning on the stainless washer that I got. So it won't cut the aluminum away, and kind of, after that happens, it'll kind of locate itself within that indentation that you made when you tighten the bolt. So I'm going to put a washer on here just to separate the aluminum surface from the steel surface of the head of the bolt, kind of putting an indentation in where you tighten it in that particular, slot. I don't know if that makes sense. I tried the best I could, and that's all you get. The only thing I didn't figure out is the head of these bolts are sticking out a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but they're sticking out just a hair because the washers are under there, and I didn't compensate the difference when I made the counter bore. But the head of these are a lot longer than the millimeter that the bolt heads are sticking out, so I'm gonna be fine. So you need to compensate that in there if you ever make a counter bore for a washer. So this is adjustable, and I'm going to put my drawer on now, which is located on this hole. And I like this hole because it's not, see how this one's adjustable? That one locates it in that spot every single time. I got it located in that one, and this is trying to hit my van. But I got it located in that one, and I think it's that one. But that one's not going to move back and forth because that one doesn't. So this one will provide it on the same location on the y-axis. Well, to me right now, the y-axis on like that one. So that one will keep it like that, and that will keep, and everything's good. So I'm gonna put these on and see how. Oh yeah, one more thing. Let me get this thing. All right, so that's what we're working with. But like I was saying, I got, and I just got them, but I got little lock nuts with a nylon insert. I got them for the drawer because the drawer is always going to be pulled on and tugged on and weight and bumps and vibration, and so I got lock washers for the drawer to hold it securely to the slider. And yeah, I figured I'd get lock nuts. And when I finally assemble everything, see, I gotta paint this, I gotta paint that because it's steel, and I gotta paint this mount because that's all just regular steel. Everything else is aluminum or stainless, so that should be good, but I don't want everything rusting up like this old guy. So I'm gonna have to take everything back apart at least one more time just to like paint everything, but I'm finalizing everything and making sure everything fits right now. So when I finally assemble everything, I'll probably put Loctite on it just so it doesn't vibrate loose and I don't have to tighten this up 3 years from now and take it all back apart. So Loctite. So one cool thing is I got the sliders that they like come apart, they like dislocate. I don't know the technical term, but that's the drawer. And these sliders, they release just by this little lever, and this whole piece comes out, which is cool. Another thing that I'm seeing is these screws are entirely too long. And the bottom one down there, because that is definitely gonna hit that when I insert this. And another thing, these nuts, you can see the difference there. I need to take probably a good 8mm off these bolts, and these are so small and they're stainless, I could probably just cut them with a pair of like wire cutters. So I'm gonna get these cut down so it'll actually fit together, and I'm hoping that these lock nuts are low enough profile that I can install them without it hitting anything. If they do hit something, then I'm just gonna have to go with regular nuts, so there won't be anything holding it together like for vibration or anything. So yeah, bad news. So I got smart, and this one's still assembled, and I can tell, well, this is the regular nut and that's the lock nut. The lock nut hits. It's too tall. So I'm just gonna have to use a regular one. I'll just assemble it with red Loctite, I guess, and it should hold. I think it'll be fine. So this thing hits. I got the nut in there. Hold on. Get the nut in. It hits. That's not good. This is the regular nut. That one doesn't hit. This is good. That is sweet. And this roller, I can feel that roller spinning when I shut this drawer. So I can tell it's there. Because if I was doing that without it, it would be bowing that stainless pretty bad and putting a bunch of stress on these and trying to tweak it over, but this is there to catch all the downforce. And there's them two roller bearings, and that's plenty strong enough for this drawer. Oh man, that thing is sweet. It's sweet when something finally comes together. And it's leaning down a little bit. See how the whole thing moves? Well, it's because this bracket isn't on. The only thing I'm afraid of, which I can almost guarantee is gonna be a problem, is there's a bracket that comes in the center. This comes down the center and then bends and then bolts to this. It's 90. Well, that is most, I don't know, that's gonna be close to that. So I'm gonna put that together real quick and see what we got. But other than that, push this back. Other than that, this thing is sweet. Stops. That thing is super nice.